Today I'm giving you 5 of the best value for money lenses that you can buy for Sony full frame cameras currently. This means your a7 IV, your a7 R series, your a7 C series, your A1s, all that stuff. And I've got something for everybody, whether you're on a budget or you don't want to carry around a ton of lenses. Well, we've got everything from an ultra wide prime to telephoto zooms, something for everyone. And I hope this video helps you figure out which one might be a good fit for you. So let's start with number 5 on the list. It is an ultra wide prime and a great value budget one at that. It's the Viltrox 16mm f1.8. If you're looking for a comparable, it's going to be really tough to find. Nothing really exists that is going to come close to this many features at this price point. At only $549 US, this thing screams value, and the performance isn't that bad either. Let's dive in and have a closer look. Here's a few of my favorite shots from my full in-depth review. Check it out if you want to see this lens in more detail. But as you can see, I've shot it in a lot of different situations and it's performed pretty well across the board. It's going to be great for architecture, for landscape, but you can also fit a lot in the frame, making it great for indoor shots as well. Optically, as you can see, it's pretty good. It's sharp where it needs to be, and the autofocus is quite reliable with no real issues to report long term. If you happen to be interested in astrophotography, this might be just one of the best intro lenses to astro that you can buy. The fast f1.8 means you're going to be able to let in a lot of light and get some great results, and chroma or smearing in the corners is actually quite well controlled too. It has an average minimum focus distance, but still allows you to get quite close to your subjects. And to utilize the f1.8 foreground and background blur, you are going to have to get relatively close. Let me know what you think of my photo examples and this lens in general down in the comments. It is a metal and plastic construction, and it does feel very, very well made. It's got a little bit of heft to it, but it's completely reasonable for a fast ultra-wide prime if you ask me. Now in terms of buttons and switches, it does have an automatic manual focus switch. It does have a function button 1 and 2 that are programmable and customizable. And I think the screen is an added bonus that we don't really see on many lenses, that's for sure. Now I love the fact that you can see what you're doing whether you're in automatic or manual focus. And another really cool and unique feature is that you can actually program this lens from an A to B point of focus and just hit that second function button to take you from one to the other. This is going to be great for you video shooters, and speaking of video, you also have a click switch for your aperture ring, which is also a really nice touch. On the front, it's got a decently sized manual focus ring that feels nice. And on the bottom is your aperture ring here. And you can choose again between a nice smooth feel, or if you want the clicks at the hard stops, that's an option too. On the bottom, you'll have a nice metal mount with a rubber gasket for weather sealing. Great for Viltrox for listening to some past criticisms on weather sealed lenses and adding it to this thing. On the front, you'll find 77mm filter threads, and that's actually really nice to have with a fast ultra wide prime because sometimes you actually don't get those threads because of a bulbous front element. Overall, for build and features, I think this thing has got a ton going for it. It's feature packed and really not much to not like about it. I give it, again, a solid 4.5 stars for build and features. At number 4 on the list, we've got one of the most versatile lenses out there. It's the Tamron 50-400. This thing is just incredible. It allows you to shoot so many things and with fantastic performance, and at only $1,299 US or so, again, just packed with value. This thing is going to be great for wildlife, for sports, for landscape, and at 50mm, that's a great general purpose photography focal length. So really, this is, considering the size and the weight, this is a great lens to pretty much take around everywhere with you, and honestly has become one of my go-to travel and road trip lenses. Let's dive in. Let's have a look at where this lens really shines and where it stands out from the pack, and that's in the versatility and focal range. It's the only lens that I know of where you can quickly go from macro-like shots with a 1:2 magnification ratio from 50mm all the way out to 400 in just a blink of an eye. And here's some of my favorite shots with this lens. One of my favorite things that Tamron's doing lately is giving us that almost macro-like capability in our bigger lenses, like telephoto lenses in this case. It's just a fantastic feature to have, and it means that I don't have to swap to another lens when I need to get the shot. Now this thing's just so great when it comes to wildlife, landscapes, and even pulling off portraits in a pinch. With 9 aperture blades, the bokeh of this lens is decent. It wouldn't be my go-to portrait lens by any means, but you can pull off some beautiful compression and nice autofocus backgrounds in a lot of cases. Now, like any modern lens, the sharpness is definitely not an issue, as you can see, and I'm happy to say that although it did have a little bit of trouble with the autofocus right out of the gate, Tamron's firmware update has drastically improved the performance, now making it very good. In terms of build quality, it's the same that you'll find in the entire Tamron lineup as of late, very comparable to the 35-150 in weight and feeling. This lens does extend as you zoom, and its longest length with the lens hood installed is just shy of 12 inches. But for a 50-400mm lens, I'd say the size is quite reasonable. In terms of exact weight, it actually comes in 10 grams lighter than the 35-150. In terms of buttons and switches, Tamron's opted to remove the automatic manual focus switch in this lens, but they have included much welcomed image stabilization. You'll also find a 3-selection custom dial, and of course a programmable focus hold button, which through Tamron's lens utility software, you can use to program many features, including the option to use it as an automatic manual focus switch. They've also included a small and convenient zoom lock switch in case you find yourself on the move. This lens does extend as it zooms, and impressively it has a very short throw, less than a quarter turn from 50 all the way to 400mm for easy and quick target acquisition. On the front you'll find a small and familiar 67mm filter threads, along with Tamron's second and vastly improved version of their broadband anti-reflection coating. On the back you'll find a standard metal mount with a nice rigid rubber gasket for confidence when it comes to weather sealing. Overall, the build and features of this lens are very good. I'm a big fan of the new customization abilities of the newer Tamron lenses. However, in this case, I wish they added just one more focus hold button. For me, it's 4.5 stars for build and features. Now, an alternative to this bigger guy is the Tamron 28-200 f2.8 to 5.6. This is going to be a phenomenal all-in-one shooter that, again, has tons of value packed in. It's a lot smaller, more compact, and yes, cheaper as well. And it's going to cover you more on the wide side, obviously, so pick and choose depending on your shooting style. Let's dive in and have a quick look at some photo examples of that guy. Now this lens really surprised me when it came out, and it continues to surprise me. A 28-200 is incredibly versatile. And it's not just the incredible focal length in this tiny package, it's how it performs. A fast f2.8 at 28 is great, gives you some nice autofocus backgrounds and great for studio work, and there's no shortage of things that you can capture zooming all the way into 200. Just a phenomenal lens overall, and a really great travel companion for those who might be struggling with space. Not quite as tailored for birds and wildlife like the 50-400, but it sure can get you out there. Number 3 on the list is for you guys maybe just getting into photography, perhaps into portraits, and want to have some beautiful shots with a nice blurry autofocus background. Check out the Viltrox 85mm f1.8. Coming in under $400 US and typically found a lot cheaper, this thing has incredible value if you ask me, and it's going to be a great starter portrait lens. For what this lens is, the performance is just fantastic, and let's dive in again and have a closer look. Because of the price of this lens, I think it's one of the best first prime lens investments that you could make. An 85 is versatile, and it's also going to give you beautiful portraits. I've shot entire weddings with an 85mm, and this is going to be a great lens for people to grow into, or just have a nice portrait lens when you need one without breaking the bank. When it comes to the build and features, it's a pretty bare bones lens with decent construction, mostly metal. It's got no buttons or switches to help keep costs down. And the size and the weight is relatively good, coming in at about 1.4 pounds. It is an autofocus lens and performs adequately. Don't expect G-Master performance, of course, but in my experience, it won't let you down. Okay, number 2 on the list is not a cheap one, but it is one of the most versatile and honestly one of my favorite lenses of all time. It's the Tamron 35-150 f2 to 2.8. Incredible versatility, incredible focal range. This thing shows up when you need it to every single time, and it's going to cover a range of things. It's a little bit big, a little bit hefty, but for what it is, I think it's completely reasonable. Let's dive in and show you what I've been able to capture with this guy. Now, if I'm being honest, this is one of the only lenses that I felt really comfortable amalgamating some of my lenses into one. So just giving up a few lenses to only carry this one around. The fast f2 at 35mm is going to be able to replace a fast prime, and then being able to go all the way out to 150mm at f2.8 is just incredible, making this just the ideal lens for portraits. But you can also shoot things like landscapes or wildlife. It really is just about the do-it-all lens, and it does it very well with optical quality that will surprise you. Yes, it's a bit heavy, but considering you could probably leave a few other lenses at home and just take this one, I think that's a fair trade-off. So a quick look at the build and features is going to reveal everything you're pretty much looking for. Here's a look at the size, unextended as well as extended, and the overall weight is just over 2.5 pounds. For buttons and switches, we're looking at 3 customizable focus hold buttons, an automatic manual focus switch, along with a 3-mode selector switch to help you dial in this lens exactly the way you want it. It also has a little lock switch to help with creep when you're on the move. Its manual focus ring does feel good, and it has a great sense of control to it. The zoom ring is actually a very short throw, less than a quarter of a turn from 35 all the way to 150mm for fast target acquisition. It's also worth noting that this lens is not image stabilized. On the front, you'll find a large front element with 82mm filter threads, along with Tamron's patented coatings to help with ghosting and flare. On the back, a nice confident metal mount with, yes, a rubber gasket for weather sealing protection. Overall, for build and features, it's exactly what you'd expect for the price. For me, reminiscent of a G Master lens, no complaints. And number 1 on the list, this is the lens that can be typically found for under $500 with an MSRP of around $1,000. It's the Samyang 135 f1.8. This marvel is just incredible for the price. Definitely find it on sale, and make sure you get yourself a good copy by testing the optical quality. But man, if you get a good one, this lens, in my opinion, for value and for performance, just can't be beat. Compare the price of this guy to a native 135 and you're gonna be blown away, because you're really gonna be hard pressed to find the difference in the beautiful photos that you can get out of this thing. I've shot weddings with it, I've shot a ton of things. It's even good for wildlife. You're gonna be blown away by the picture quality. Let's have a closer look. This is probably my favorite people shooting lens and focal length. I think it offers just a beautiful combination of foreground and background blur with its fast aperture, as well as flattering compression. You really can't go wrong. Consider checking out the video I made explaining why I think the 135 is the best portrait lens that there is. Now, my overall impressions of this lens are very good. It really feels like Samyang has stepped it up in terms of build quality. It just feels like a very well-made professional lens in your hand. And I could really say that this is definitely the next generation of their lenses. The size and the weight of this lens are good for me, and it's worth noting that this lens is just under half a pound less than the G Master. For convenience, it does have a customizable focus hold button, a mode switch, and a focus limiting switch. The manual focus ring feels fantastic. It's tactile and does have a separation from the lens. It's not too tight and it's not too loose, it's just right. On the front, you'll find a large 82mm filter thread design, as well as Samyang's ultra multi-coating, which is going to help with ghosting and flare in order to achieve higher contrast when working in strong lighting conditions. On the back, there's a metal mount, and luckily also a nice rubber gasket for confidence when it comes to weather sealing. So overall, for the build and features, I think Samyang is going in a great direction here, and I'm happy with everything that's included. In this regard, I give this lens 4.5 stars. So there you go, guys. There's 5 of the best value for money lenses that I think you could buy currently for Sony full frame mirrorless cameras. Now, of course, everybody's gonna have different needs, and there's a ton of lens choices out there. I just wanted to share my experience and know that I do have a full in-depth review on all of these lenses. So if that's of interest, make sure you check that out so you can really dial in to see if any of these are gonna be a right fit for you. Thanks so much for watching the video, guys. If you did wanna pick any of these up, I will drop affiliate links down below. And like always, make mistakes, be yourself, and get out there and take some more pictures. See you next time.